Robins issue 1, Tim Seeley writing with Baldemar Rivas on the art. So yeah. So this is an interesting book. It's obviously all the Robins, including Stephanie Brown.
She was Robin.
She was Robin for 70 something days, as is pointed out.
Or maybe 45.
If you take the suspension time, yes. So some details here. Yeah, like, I think I kind of liked the vibe of this for the most part, and I'm intrigued by this villain by the end who is claiming to be the first Robin. Although is anyone like feeling something here about like who this is? Like, do you have an idea?
No, but this is more stuff from the past that you didn't know about. I mean, that's how it's being sold, and we all know how we are with Batman stuff like that.
I'm not convinced
whether or not it's real.
Yeah, I'm not convinced it is. I'm partly thinking this is like some demented person who.
It feels like the Robin King from Dark Multiverse.
Yeah,
all I know is because obviously, I don't know what happened with the release system of this, where they're putting them up on DC Universe.
Yeah, they come out early on the on DCU,
which that was not advertised anywhere that I remember seeing.
It confused us because I think issue two came out on DC Universe last week.
It did. So obviously, certain websites are running spoilers for issue 2 already, which I saw before I'd read issue 1.
Oh, that's a shame.
Because it was in the headline.
Can I ask a question? I don't want to be spoiled. Does it get better? Because if it doesn't, I'm gonna stop here.
I haven't read any further. I mean, I could. It's right there, but I haven't.
Yeah, because the part I didn't like about this, because I like obviously some of the banter between the characters and whatnot. I thought that like actually using like the real Robins, like I don't mind them like comic books like sort of like talking about something like so. Like other books might do a similar thing here where they'll go to like real Robins and they'll talk about a Robin does this and this and this, and it'll somehow relate to whatever character. So maybe it'll be Dick is going through, and it'll somehow relate to what a real Robin goes through, and they'll do something thematic, right? But this has actually got a character incorporating Robins into their villain plot because they're going after Robins, and that felt a bit on the nose to me in a way that I didn't quite like.
Well, not just that.
But is it because they're going after Robins or because they are Robin?
We Are Robin. That was a
whole different book.
So normally I like Tim Seeley. I've liked more than I haven't from what I've read, and him and King on Grayson I love. I know he has voices for these characters. I don't know what was wrong with this one.
I like the voices for the character. That's the strongest part of the issue for me is when they're all sat around the table.
But it's the way that it's presented where Dick's like, okay, I'm gonna go first because I was the first Robin, and it's very awkward. And the dialogue.
Do you know what my biggest weirdest thing was? Why's Dick got a man bun?
Right.
His hair's tied back. It's a little random.
That doesn't bother me as much as
it bothered me. I'm like, where's this coming from?
Everybody at the table, he's the first Rob. They all know. Like that scene around the table, I get what they were going for. Just the way that the exposition was delivered was like me trying to run through tires on a football field.
I didn't read it as exposition because I think for me, and technically I suppose it is exposition, but it felt like almost like sibling banter. Like, no, I'm the oldest. I get to go first.
I didn't get that vibe though. You know what I mean? Like,
no, but
around the table.
That's separate. That's a separate issue though. So the premise here is that Dick wants them all to have a meeting as the Robins, right? Yeah. And then him pulling the I'm the oldest, so I'll go. Like, those are two separate things. No. I know. Just it was the presentation that I didn't like. It's not what he said. It's how he said it. It's the dialogue just does not work for me. Okay, I mean that's like if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. But like the way you're describing the problem is like
no.
It's like a whole different thing entirely. Yeah.
No, it's when I was sitting there reading it and Dick going, I am the oldest, so I'm gonna go first. I don't know. It doesn't, to me, that doesn't feel like something Dick would say. It doesn't feel particularly bantery. It feels just like expositional, as if someone picked up this book, doesn't know he was the first Robin, and now they do. And it's like, Seeley's a better writer than that. At least that's, I feel, because the rest of the book, I think, is fine. That stuff around the table, though, where he's given the broad strokes of each Robin are so clumsy, and it kind of made me not want to check out any more of these because it was just kind of like, are we gonna have fits and starts like this, or is it gonna be more like the beginning where they're fighting anarchy and quipping back and forth? Like the Tim and Damien stuff worked.
What's funny about that is that I would say I like the idea of them sitting around a table for 6 issues way more than doing generic action scenes.
Me too. And I enjoyed the action. It makes sense. You open your book with an action sequence.
And I like the way it sort of introduced each one, where it kind of like, it teased like, like someone gets pulled out a panel and then it's like Steph's on the next page. She's the one who pulled them out a panel. It sort of does that and introduces them all one by one, which is fun enough. I don't like the art that much, particularly when they're sitting around the table. I think they all look a bit off. I mean, we mentioned the man bun, but I think they all look a bit just kind of ropey.
I think my biggest problem with the art is when they're out of costume, they all kind of look the same.
Except Steph, obviously.
Except Steph, obviously, but they all look really similar.
Yeah,
I think I can tell that's Dick because he's got a man bun, but that's the only reason I can tell it's Dick.
But like Jason needs a little bit more of a, him, Tim, and Damien all have the same haircut.
Yeah, and it's fine when they're in costume because they've all got different outfits. It's sort of recognizable at a glance.
I just want to say, I don't agree that Damien has the same haircut, because Damien's haircut, he's basically got that like he looks like a character from like a fighting game whose hair's sticking up. Like he's got like a very specific thing going.
Dragon Ball hair.
There you go, Dragon Ball hair.
He looks like Kazuya from Tekken.
Yeah. Like, I think my bigger problem with the book, so I've got two problems. One is that the teases of the villain I'm not particularly hot on. And then the second problem I have with the book is that I don't really know the point of what Dick's trying to do here, what's motivated him to do this sort of group therapy, sort of like, we're Robins, let's talk about it. And I'm sure there probably is a reason that the book will eventually reveal, but I felt like it maybe needs something a little bit more as to, like, even if we don't know why he's doing it, I felt like there needed to be more of a clear goal in mind.
I agree with that. I think there should have been some sort of inciting incident. It feels like this should have spun out of a main book where Batman had done something to piss them all off again.
Because when they tease early on, when he says, "Hey, we're finally doing this thing tomorrow, right?" And then so it implies that he's been wanting to do this for a while, and then they're all around the table. I thought, for a brief moment before he actually started talking, that maybe this is going to be something like they're all going to set up something for Bruce, or not that I was thinking it was something stupid as a surprise birthday party, but the idea being that there'd be a reason that they'd all want to get together as Robins to plan something or something.
It reminds me of, do you know when Snyder did Death of the Family?
Mm-hmm.
And it promised all this massive, all this fallout was going to affect everyone, and then it went straight into 0 years, so we didn't see any of it for like a year, and it just had no impact. This feels like if this was spinning out of that, essentially, like, okay, right, we're all Robins, let's come and let's talk about what this means to us as a family, as Robins. It feels like a result of coming out of one of those style
or like family therapy with absentee dad. It's like, I try to talk to him. Also, he doesn't want to talk. He doesn't want to talk to us. So we're going to talk to each other. There's
something kind of off about the premise a little bit as well of including Steph, and it's not that I don't think she necessarily shouldn't be included, but the problem is that Steph's tenure as Robin is so short and it's so different to everyone else's that if you're going to include Steph, I would argue that if the whole idea of this is that Batman's taken under his wing, Babs is more valid than she is to be at this meeting.
She was never Robin.
Well, that's the point, though. If it's just about the name, then it has to be like, if it's about the trauma of being a Batman sidekick, it can't just be about the name Robin. It has to,
it has to be about the name Robin because that's what links it to the villain, right? It's very contrived in that sense.
Yeah, it's contrived. Yes, that's the word. It's contrived.
And we all know how I feel about Duke and how he doesn't get used until outsiders. Duke was a Robin too. A brief second.
I feel like there's no way to justify.
That's the point we are Robin.
There's no way to justify that it's just the Robins, or all of the characters, so all the Batgirls as well. It feels like this weird murky thing. Steph in particular, because at least if it's the four boys, it's kind of like, okay, they feel like a set. They feel like the brothers. They feel more connected. But to include Steph, it's like, well, Cass and Bab should be here too. Like it should be.
If you take out, I know where to place this. Then, if we're talking about an incident that led, with Bruce disappointing them, this is in my head now. If you take out Steph, remember when Bane hung them all in the Batcave? And we're like, how'd they survive? This is them coming to terms with that.
Sure.
So, yeah, I just, oh man, yeah, it just, I did get some laughs though with like Connor said, with the banter, like with Steph talking, like, yeah, like I was 45 days.
It's contrived once you get past that, but once you get past that setup and the awkwardness, I think it's a relatively fun read.
Yeah.
No, I would concur with that. I actually kind of like the so like it's like an old villain. So it's basically they find out that all of their original villains have been killed, and then they figure so this old guy here's like one of their original villains. He's just turned into a fairly good guy because he's there to warn them, but he gets sniped through the window. So we have this sort of dark ending where they're all kind of like jumping to the floor and like who is this? And we see like this the first Robin quote unquote perched on a rooftop. Like the actual way the action of that scene plays out, I thought was pretty good. And I do like some of the banter, but I think like the setup for this is kind of vague and convoluted. That I don't like. It was kind of lingering the entire time for me. And then like some of the like the villain like depending on which way it goes, it might be fine because like if it is just like this is some crazy person connected to the early days of when Robin existed, then cool. If it's maybe from the Dark Multiverse stuff, then that could work. But like all the stuff with like the first scene where it's like we're in like the UK somewhere and it's the UK because they say dial 999. Because I actually went back to because it's only the second page that line's there, and I went back to the first page because I thought, wait, did this have a caption saying where it was? And it didn't. But I was like, oh, I guess it's in the UK. But there's a whole thing where it's like the villain puts a grenade in a robin's nest, and okay. So
reasons.
Yeah. Well, and that ties into if this is the first Robin that was cast aside, this is kind of them picking that first hatchling and destroying the rest of the nest, right? Like I'm not going to let you fall aside like I was.
Why is the first Robin English?
Don't know.
Is this going to be this was a see, you can't even do it was a Robin on one of his travels, like when he was training, because he wasn't Batman yet, right? Until he comes back to Gotham.
How many kids does Bruce have that we don't know about though?
It could be a very long list, let's be honest.
And also I also like to think the idea of Robin is tied innately to Dick Grayson, right? And that was like a family thing. So the idea of there being a first Robin that predates him.
This feels like it's just on concept, feels a little just out of place with anything else we're doing right now.
I'm very hopeful that this is a scenario of they're not actually the first Robin. This is
for sure,
some crazy person who doesn't know what they're doing.
You mean the book that's only being printed because it won an internet contest is a little disjointed?
Do you know what's so funny is that we kind of assumed that when that tournament thing happened that a lot of these pitches must just have been sitting around, and it does kind of feel like because this feels like it might have just been sitting around from like 5, maybe even like way more than that. Like it could be 10 years old. This premise, and I do wonder because. What's so different from now compared to the New 52 era when it feels like this might have been an idea for like a standalone mini?
My spinning out of Death of the Family scenario might not have been so wild.
I honestly think it was spinning out of that thing, but like it could have been a standalone mini idea back then or whatever. But the reason why I think it sticks out to me that it felt like it comes from that kind of era is that it sticks out now because we don't really need this. Like for the first time, well, it's been a while now, but we've had a good couple of years, but for a long time, we were all gagging for that classic Bat family. We wanted Steph and Tim and Dick and like these characters working together and the Batgirls as well. And we have actually a good thing of it right now where we have a Robin book with Damian. We have Nightwing. We have Batgirls coming out. We have all these characters all sharing a world and they're in the best place they've been in a long, long, long time. So this book right now feels like we don't really need it. Like, we don't have that thirst because we're getting it in the main comics, and it's better in the main comics than this is, quite frankly. So, it's kind of in a weird place where it doesn't feel like it's needed. But, I mean...
It's not bad, though.
It's not bad.
It's convoluted, and it's got this weird baggage to it, but it's still mostly quite enjoyable to read.
How much did you like Damian calling out Tim for calling himself the Drake?
that's the one thing that tells us it's set. At the very least, they updated some dialogue because they put in a dig about the Drake.
Yeah,
think
I
the fact
did
that
love
Stephanie
that.
Brown's in it means it has to have been a updated version, because obviously that would have happened during the New 52.
Sure,
No,
sure.
but she
Yeah.
wasn't around. But I did like that because apparently Bendis was the only one that thought that was a good idea.
Yeah, it wasn't a
Yeah.
super tough read, so as long as the week's not too busy when issue 2 comes out, like I'll probably
Yeah.
still give the second issue a go. But
I'm giving this one more issue, and then if it's
It's only a
still the
6-issue mini
dialogue's
though, right?
yeah,
Yeah, but if the dialogues tell more of this, then I'm gonna be a little bit,
all right, let's move on. I just need to rate this, don't we? Rate Rob.
5.5.
Oh, Connor.
A bit more generous than that, but not, I'm not in love with it. It's a 6.5 for me.
Yeah, I agree with the 6.5. Yeah, I think 6.5.
I thought I was gonna go 6.
I did think about it. I already had my number in mind, but I did
Yeah.
think about saying it just when I said that first bit.